what I be trying to explain to them is like, if you and him beefing, if it ain't no blood spilled, or ain't died about it, it's really nothing.
Lil Durk's response to Lil Jeff's death didn't catch much attention at the time. But now, with new rumors suggesting he might have been involved, that reaction is being looked at in a whole new light, almost like a hidden admission, especially since Lil Jeff was known to be in a heated feud with YFG Fatso, one of Durk's own signed artists.
Another thing that's been going viral, you dissed Bloodhound Lil Jeff in the song.
The details surrounding Durkio's possible involvement are wild, and what we've uncovered might completely change how you see the situation. When keeping it real goes wrong, it seems like Lil Durk just can't catch a break. Not only is he already facing murder for hire allegations, but now his name is being tied back to the murder of Lil Jeff. But to really understand Durkio's reaction to Jeff's death, we first need to look at why he's being mentioned at all. It all traces back to a heated beef between Lil Jeff's close associate, Lil Scoom, and one of Durk's own artists, YFG Fatso. The drama all started over something that happens all the time in the rap game: someone allegedly stealing another rapper's bars. YFG Fatso, who was rising fast in Chicago's drill scene, ended up in a feud with Lil Scoom, who was closely connected to the late Bloodhound, Lil Jeff. According to Fatso, the entire deadly chain of events began over something as petty as lyrics, but anyone familiar with how things go in the streets knows it's never just about how the beef starts, it's about who's left standing when the smoke clears. The conflict centered around two songs: Lil Scoom's track Night and YFG Fatso's Princeton freestyle. Scoom accused Fatso of copying his flow and some of his bars, but Fatso wasn't backing down. In an interview that later seemed chillingly accurate, Fatso laid out the timeline and revealed just how messy and backward the whole situation really was.
I been made that song like a year before I dropped it. All the songs that's viral and all the songs I got on my YouTube, I just started dropping new songs. All the other old as hell. Like, I got hella songs. I got a big ass catalog for. But I'm telling you, like, gang, I been had this song before you.
But here's where things really heat up. Fatso flipped the entire narrative and claimed that it was actually Scoom who was stealing bars.
I know you took my lyrics, folks. Your homie was just on the phone with me and told me that you be in the crib listening to my music. He like, yeah, we with you, bro.
So now, the one who had been pointing fingers was getting exposed as the real thief. That street karma at its finest, calling someone out for doing the very thing you've been doing yourself. What made the situation even more tragic was that Fatso and Lil Jeff actually had history together. These two weren't always enemies, they used to hang out, and that makes what happened next even more cold-blooded. Fatso revealed their past connection during a live.
You want to be technical? Shit, me and Jeff used to kick it. If you want to be technical, me and Jeff used to kick.
But when it came time to choose sides, Lil Jeff stood by his day one Scoom instead of staying neutral or trying to squash the beef. That choice turned out to be the biggest mistake of his young life, because he was about to go head-to-head with someone who had real connections and wasn't playing when it came to his respect. Unlike Scoom and Jeff, who were chasing clout and trying to go viral off the drama, YFG Fatso carried himself differently. He wasn't out to prove anything. He moved with the quiet confidence of someone who had real street credibility. Instead of rushing to violence, Fatso actually tried to brush off the whole situation and keep it pushing.
I ain't the who mad about lyrics. That ain't nothing for real. I got real life situations going on, so I ain't finna really argue with you about no lyrics. That's why I never had really paid attention.
But Scoom and Jeff weren't trying to hear any of that mature talk. They were locked in, fully focused on milking the beef for all the street cred and social media clout they could get. They kept going live on Instagram, talking reckless, posting non-stop on TikTok, and doing everything possible to keep the drama alive and the tension high.
But the niggas was chasing it, like, stay seeing it, get on live and shit. Like, you know, you go to TikTok and see it. They on live.
The streets were watching this whole situation unfold, and the real ones could see exactly what was going on. The social media comments told the story loud and clear, with people calling out the clout chasing for what it really was. One commenter summed it up perfectly. In my opinion, Scoom and Bloodhound were just looking for reasons to start beef so they could get their names out there. Another person wrote, "This seems like a small beef over maybe some stolen lyrics. Nothing serious, but everything changed when Fatso and Scoom unexpectedly ran into each other while visiting people in county jail. This was the real test. The internet is one thing, but when you're face-to-face with someone you've been dissing online, that's when you find out who's really about that action."
I go to jail, I see
what happened during that jail visit said everything you needed to know about Scoom's character. When it came time to back up all that internet tough talk, he completely folded like a lawn chair. No smoke, no confrontation, just him, avoiding the situation and pretending to be busy talking to his mom. That moment told Fatso everything. This wasn't real street beef, it was cloud chasing, plain and simple. But even after Scoom punked out in person, Jeff and his crew kept the disrespect going online. They stayed on social media, talking reckless, dropping diss tracks, and doing everything they could to keep the drama alive for the audience. Fatso, showing the maturity and street smarts that come with real experience, tried to settle things. Like a grown man, he reached out directly, hoping to squash the beef and move on.
Like I didn't consider him an op at first in jail. I don't know who the f he is. Before that, I didn't consider him an op.
That "leave it in the trenches" comment showed that Fatso understood street politics better than these younger guys. He knew that taking beef online was dangerous. It attracts attention from all the wrong people, the police, rival gangs, and, most importantly, individuals with the resources to turn internet drama into real-world consequences. But Jeff and Scoom were too caught up in chasing clout to listen. They kept pushing, kept disrespecting, and kept talking recklessly, completely unaware that they were crossing a line that would change everything. What they didn't realize was that their target was about to become untouchable, protected by one of the most ruthless organizations in Chicago's music industry. While they were busy chasing likes and comments, Fatso was making real moves behind the scenes. He wasn't just another drill rapper anymore. He was about to become part of a family that doesn't play about respect. The internet tough guys were about to learn the hard way. There's a big difference between going viral and dealing with real street beef, and that lesson would cost them everything. The stage was now set for a transformation, turning a petty argument over lyrics into a battle for organizational respect. Because when real money and real power get involved, the rules change. What some thought was a game suddenly became a deadly situation, where consequences weren't measured in views, but in body bags. And when OTF gets involved, bodies start. Dropping April 2024 changed everything. That's when Lil Durk made an announcement that shifted the balance of power. YFG Fatso had officially signed to Only the Family. He was no longer an independent artist, he was now a soldier in one of the most feared movements in Chicago. When Durk posted on Instagram that Fatso was one of 3 new signees to OTF, he did more than just give the rapper a deal. He put a target on anyone who had been disrespecting his newest artist. Because signing to OTF isn't just about music, it's about joining a brotherhood, a family known for sliding on anyone who crosses them. From that moment on, anyone beefing with Fatso was no longer just beefing with a rising rapper. They were taking on an entire organization with money, muscle, and the will to make people disappear. In the hierarchy of Chicago's drill scene, OTF sits at the top, and they didn't get there by letting disrespect slide. Jeff and Scoom didn't understand what this signing really meant. They kept the same reckless energy, still talking crazy, not realizing they had just gone from dissing an up-and-coming artist to disrespecting a dangerous machine. That's the difference between those who understand street politics and those who treat it like online content. The fatal mistake happened in late May 2024. Jeff went live on Instagram and played an unreleased diss track from Scoom aimed directly at YFG Fatso. This wasn't just some harmless flex, this was a public challenge to OTF's authority. By doing that, Jeff basically told the world he didn't respect Durk's new artist, and by extension didn't respect Durk himself. In OTF's world where the streets and music business overlap, that kind of public disrespect demands an immediate response. If there isn't one, you look weak, and weakness gets you killed. To really understand how dangerous this move was, you have to know how OTF handles business. This isn't some regular rap beef where artists trade bars and move on. Lil Durk has built a reputation as someone who slides for his people, and the federal charges he's currently facing show just how far he's willing to go. He once said, "A beef isn't a beef until blood is spilled." And when it comes to OTF, those aren't just lyrics, that's a promise.
Then I get out of jail. The niggas just keep, they always going on Instagram. Mind you, before I had these niggas numbers.
He did show some regret over what happened to Quan, and even acknowledged the ongoing violence that continues to plague the Chicago drill scene.
Whole situation that happened with Quando.
How we live and how we go by our shit. And I'm speaking for the whole Chicago. You ain't there. Shut the fuck up. You weren't there.
Right now, the feds have Lil Durk behind bars, and the reason is deadly serious. According to federal court filings, Durk allegedly began planning Quando Rando's assassination almost immediately after King Von was killed. This wasn't an emotional, spur-of-the-moment retaliation. This was cold, calculated, and methodically organized, involving multiple people, serious money, and high-level coordination. The paperwork says Durk offered a cash bounty to anyone willing to participate in the hit on Quan. His cousin DeAndre Wilson even sweetened the deal by promising music industry connections and lucrative opportunities to whoever handled it. When Quando was tracked to that hotel in Los Angeles, Durk's crew didn't send just any street-level hitters. They mobilized a full tactical squad, equipped with high-grade gear and a coordinated strategy. Quando survived, but his cousin, Lil Pab, didn't make it. That alone shows how real this crew is about getting revenge. Even if they miss their main target, someone's going to get touched. But the Quando situation, that was just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. The feds have been quietly building a massive case, alleging that Durk's crew has been running organized murder-for-hire operations for years. One major example is the killing of Stephen Max 2 years after Durk's brother, Dethan, was murdered. Federal agents charged Preston Powell, aka J.B. Marley, and Anthony Montgomery Wilson, aka AJ, in connection with a paid hit tied to Max's death. The evidence is wild. Text messages between AJ and J.B. Marley were uncovered, with AJ directly asking, "Did Durk give you that money?" This isn't just some random street beef. This is organized crime with receipts and paper trails. And here's where it gets even crazier. AJ was spotted at Durk's AHHH music video shoot, the same video that dropped less than a month after Max was gunned down. That means alleged contract killers are blending into the music industry like it's all one operation. That's how deep this thing runs. The case of FBG Duck paints a similar picture. At first, people believed it was King Von who put a price on Duck's head after Duck disrespected Tier. But then FBG Butter revealed something deeper, that Durk allegedly arranged for Duck's killers to be flown out on a private jet right before their arrest. So while Von was taking the credit in the public eye, it was Durk, allegedly, funding the entire operation behind the scenes. That's the kind of machine Jeff and Scoo were poking at when they disrespected YFG Fatso. They thought it was just rap beef, but what they were really doing was picking a fight with a well-funded, heavily armed organization with trained shooters and a long history of eliminating threats with military precision. And the timeline proves it. Just 2 weeks after Jeff's disrespectful IG Live, he was dead. That's not just coincidence, that's a warning. On June 8, 2024, Jeff made a fatal mistake. He pulled up to the 6600 block of South Rhodes Avenue with Q50 and another shooter, thinking they were about to slide on some enemies. What they didn't realize was they were walking into a setup. Jeff was the first to hop out and open fire. His target bolted, ducking behind a car and then sprinting toward a house for cover. Jeff, hyped up from the adrenaline, chased him up the porch steps, still shooting, but he didn't realize he was running straight into a trap. Inside that house, the opposition was locked in, waiting with better weapons, better angles, and the upper hand. They returned fire immediately and with devastating force. Before Jeff could even make it through the front door, he was shot multiple times, the impact knocking him backward off the porch and onto the pavement. And they didn't stop there. Reports say they stood over his body and emptied an entire magazine into him, just to make sure he was never getting back up again. There was no getting up after that. Jeff was gone. Q50 and the other shooter tried to provide cover, but they were outgunned, outflanked, and caught off guard. Once it became clear that Jeff wasn't moving and staying any longer meant sharing his fate, they did the only thing that made sense. They dipped, leaving Jeff's lifeless body sprawled on the pavement. By the time law enforcement arrived, the aftermath said it all. Shell casings littered the ground, 58 in total, and Jeff had been hit a staggering 19 times. That kind of firepower. That wasn't some random back and forth, that was a calculated hit, a setup, a hit squad with a point to prove. Although no direct links have been made between F and the shooters, the entire incident followed a pattern that's been seen before: swift retaliation, overwhelming force, and a chilling message left behind. This wasn't about catching someone lacking, this was about making an example. Jeff's death sent shockwaves through the streets, and served multiple purposes for F's image. First, it showed that they don't play when it comes to respect, even over something as small as biting lyrics. Second, it proved their protection extends beyond just their major artists. Even new affiliates are guarded by the same lethal standard. And third, it reinforced what many already feared, that F doesn't bluff. They follow through. This wasn't rap beef, this was a real-life consequence. And Jeff found out the hard way that mocking the wrong people online can turn fatal fast, especially when those people have the money, manpower, and cold-blooded intent to turn a tweet into a tombstone. Jeff's murder didn't mark the end of anything, it was the opening chapter in a darker saga, one that would show the entire city exactly how F handles business when you disrespect their family. What happened next proved this wasn't random street violence or a heat-of-the-moment act of retaliation. It was a calculated, systematic elimination of everyone involved in disrespecting YFG Fatso. See, when an organization like F decides to move, they don't just go after one person, they clean house completely. To truly understand what F is capable of, you have to look at their history. These aren't amateurs pulling sloppy hits in the dark. This is an operation that's well-funded, highly organized, and brutally efficient. They've used everything from women setting up backdoor hits to hiring gang affiliates as contract killers, and all of it traces back to one core mission: maintain dominance through fear and force. A prime example: the murder of FBG Cash. Cash made the deadly mistake of mocking King Vaughn's memory, posing next to Vaughn's mural, flipping off the camera, and posting the pic with the caption, "Whole world witnessed your main sniper get his splack." That kind of disrespect doesn't just go unnoticed, it demands blood. Durk's response wasn't loud or flashy. He didn't rant online. He moved with silence and precision. He studied Cash's patterns, watched how he moved, and exposed his weaknesses. Through his own Instagram story, Durk posted a chilling warning that now reads like a prophecy. Don't diss if you be lingering and chasing ... won't end well. That's March. That was in March. By June, Cash was dead. On June 9, 2022. Cash was in his car with a woman in the back seat at a stop sign. Another vehicle blocked him in. 3 shooters jumped out and opened fire. A gunfight erupted, but Cash didn't survive. Word spread fast in the streets. The woman riding with him had set him up exactly like Durk's story hinted months earlier. That's not coincidence. That's strategic intelligence, surveillance, and execution. The case of FBG Duck reinforces the same point. Duck disrespected F's fallen soldier T-Roy in multiple diss tracks. The response, swift and surgical. Duck was ambushed in broad daylight. On Michigan Avenue, one of Chicago's busiest streets, armed men jumped out of vehicles and opened fire as Duck tried to run. It was all caught on surveillance footage. The message was crystal clear. Disrespect our dead, and you'll join them. So when Jeff played that diss track on Instagram Live, mocking YFG Fatso, his fate was practically sealed. And F wasn't done. Just a month after Jeff was gunned down, his partner in this respect, Lil Scoom, also lost his life under circumstances that echoed the same pattern of targeted elimination. On July 7th, Scoom was in the Chatham neighborhood, near 89th Place and Langley Avenue, when he and a 16-year-old homie got into a heated argument with someone on the street. It quickly escalated and shots were fired. Scoom took multiple bullets and collapsed on the spot. His younger friend was also hit but survived. Paramedics rushed Scoom to the University of Chicago Medical Center, but it was too late. He was pronounced dead on arrival. And the scene around Scoom's killing said it all. When police spotted a suspect fleeing the area, it triggered a foot chase during which shots were fired at officers. That turned the block into a war zone. SWAT was called in. Multiple police districts swarmed the neighborhood. Yet despite all that manpower and chaos, the shooter slipped away clean. Just like always, it takes either extreme desperation or extreme confidence to move the way F does. The kind of confidence that only comes when you believe you're protected by powerful people. The back-to-back eliminations of Jeff and Scoom within just a month sent shockwaves through Chicago's drill scene. This wasn't random street violence. This was a methodical cleanup operation, one designed to wipe out everyone tied to the original disrespect. The message was loud and clear. When you cross F, they don't just come for you, they come for your entire crew. This calculated, systematic approach serves several strategic purposes. First, it demonstrates the organization's reach and efficiency, proving they can take out multiple targets swiftly and with precision. Second, it sends a powerful deterrent to anyone even thinking about similar disrespect. And third, it strengthens F's position at the top of Chicago's hip-hop hierarchy, showing that any threat, no matter how small, will be dealt with decisively. But the consequences didn't stop with the victims. These killings had ripple effects that spread far beyond just Jeff and Scoom. Other artists and crews across the city took notice. Everyone now understands that beefing with F isn't just music, it could be a death sentence, regardless of how minor the original. The issue was in hindsight, the diss that started it all seems almost laughably petty. A few bars and a song and Instagram Live, but that's all it took. That moment became a vehicle for F to flex their organizational power in full view of the streets. What once would have been a local neighborhood dispute is now amplified by social media broadcast to massive audiences through Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. That amplification changes everything. It forces organizations like F to respond louder and more violently because now everyone's watching. When Jeff played that diss track on Instagram Live, it left F no room to stay silent. Ignoring it would have made them look weak in front of thousands. Their credibility was on the line. Looking at F's broader operation, it's clear they've weaponized reputation management. Strategic violence has become their brand. While the federal cases against Durk have exposed part of this operation, those only represent the few times the feds had enough evidence to pursue prosecution. The deaths of Jeff and Scoom suggest there are likely many more eliminations that left no traceable trail. Clean hits carried out with enough precision to avoid legal consequences. This level of coordination and long-term thinking sets F apart from typical street crews. By eliminating threats quickly and thoroughly, they avoid drawn-out wars that could attract unwanted law enforcement heat or invite retaliation. Every move is calculated not just to get revenge, but to protect the empire they've built. As federal investigations continue to peel back the layers of F's alleged criminal network, the killings of Jeff and Scoom remain stark reminders of what happens when that network is challenged. What began as petty social media jabs turned into another chapter in F's brutal history, a history built on the ruthless use of violence to maintain dominance. That legacy now shapes how artists, producers, and even street affiliates navigate Chicago's hip-hop scene. People think twice before throwing shade or making bold claims. The consequences are well known, and they're permanent. Jeff and Scoom paid the price in blood. Their deaths weren't isolated incidents, they were warnings. The streets have heard it loud and clear. In Chicago's drill scene, F sits at the top of the food chain, and they didn't get there by letting disrespect slide. Whether it's stolen lyrics, internet beef, or mocking their dead, the response is always the same: swift, brutal, final. Jeff and Scoom learned that lesson too late, but now their story is a permanent part of the message. Thanks for watching.